Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Wipe Up 156, the show where I talk about things that are happening around the world as I experience them through Instagram. And then I share the post. I talk about it. Let's get it started. Starting off with some sad news. Norm MacDonald, stand-up comedian, actor, podcaster, everything under the sun, hilarious, passed away. He was battling cancer for, I believe, 9 years that he kept quiet, which is crazy. Like, I've seen so many comedians and just people that have worked with him, you know, sharing their stories, and just everybody is so taken back by how he was able to keep it secret for so long. A comic that I enjoyed, he had a Netflix show that did one season called Norm MacDonald Has a Show, which I really enjoyed. It was the most recent thing. Of course, movies like Dirty Work, and most if not all of the Adam Sandler movies, at least most of the early ones, I think. But yeah, Norm MacDonald missed, man. It's a bummer. It's just it's crazy. I mean, I'm 40, so there's just going to be more of these artists and entertainers that I enjoyed in my life growing up, and through parts of my life that are just not going to be around forever. And it's a shame. Norm MacDonald, who had he was funny. He just communicated funny. Communicated in a funny way. He spoke. The way he spoke and the way he talked was so unique and transferred effortlessly to his performances on stage, or maybe when he spoke on shows, he was tapping into how he speaks on stage a bit, at least, you know, cranking it up a notch or two with the way he speaks. But it's hilarious. He's a hilarious comedian, unique voice in comedy for sure. And it's a bummer. And this is a post from the Comedy Store. Let me read it real quick. The Comedy Store sends its deepest condolences to the family and friends of Norm MacDonald. Norm's irreverence and comedic timing will forever be unmatched, from his long battle with NBC execs to his never-ending moth joke. I don't know either of those. Norm's contributions to comedy were so exceptionally wonderful, weird, and personal. He will be remembered as one of the greats. Really makes you wonder where he got his ideas from. But yeah, definitely a comedian that I should go back into and just binge a lot of his stuff, right? I think that's kind of... I remember when Robin Williams died, I had this super desire to watch Aladdin or Mrs. Doubtfire, movies that were huge for me as a child, held huge nostalgia. So maybe I'll go back and watch Dirty Work. Was he in Half Baked? I'm not sure. He was in a lot of movies around that time. But yeah, it's be a good time to celebrate his career and his life by going to check out his stuff. And I think his show on Netflix is still that was a funny show. Norm MacDonald Has a Show. Was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. So I'd recommend that as well. But rest in peace, Norm MacDonald. And he's on to the next dimension, whatever that may be. He has passed on to a different reality. Now moving on to, in my opinion, some good news. The results for the California recall election are in. They've been in. People know. But Gavin Newsom not been recalled. It was by a large margin, which was I gotta say, voting has felt very critical more recently. I mean, ever since, I mean, I guess if there has ever been a positive thing to be attributed to the Trump presidency, it is that it really woke a lot of people up to see how bad it can get and how important voting is. Uh, despite despite how much like the misinformation of like your vote doesn't count. The thing that I remember growing up hearing so much from so many people, and to an extent, I mean, Trump didn't win the popular vote, but like votes in certain states are highly critical, especially like, Georgia was big for Biden. And hopefully, I know there's, I think I saw a post, there's somebody running against Abbott in Texas. Like that would be huge. I can't see Texas going blue, but you never know. I know there's a lot of liberals in Texas, but that probably most of them live in Austin. But it was good news to see Newsom soundly defeat everybody, defeat the recall, I guess. And the people that were the Larry Elder, is that his name? Elder? Thankfully conceded his loss, despite saying things that were very similar to Trump when he was approaching his loss. Thankfully, he's not following in those footsteps. I think because the margin was so large, it would be kind of ridiculous. But yeah, that would have been horrible for California. Horrible for California. But yeah, congratulations to Gavin Newsom. I'm happy that you are still I mean, he's not perfect. By no means. I'm not like buying Gavin Newsom merch, but considering the alternative, yeah, I would 1,000%. That's how horrible the Conservative Party is that I'm willing to like put up with these like mediocre like candidates that are like so moderate that they might as well be conservative. I would much rather have a progressive candidate in charge of California. Like that's, as far as everything I've seen, I would, if I had to label myself politically, it is a progressive Democrat. Like I am way closer to social. Like I would not have any problems with going to more socialist programs in our like there's a lot of things that we should be doing to help people in this country instead of spending the majority of our tax dollars on police that kill people and are constantly being found to be doing horrible things to human beings, which take ginormous tax dollars to fund, and the military, which after 9/11, after this most recent 9/11, the 25 years or whatever since, or 20 years since 9/11 happened, like clearly all of that money does nothing to protect this country from a couple planes being hijacked. Zero was, it's not like there was a barrage of planes coming at us and two snuck through and landed into buildings. It's like 2 out of 3 planes accomplished their goal. Come on. Meanwhile, we're invading. We have like occupied all kinds of countries. Get out of here. Like we waste money invading people. So after seeing that, I would much rather our tax dollars go to social programs, get people out of poverty, give homeless people a place to live. We can do it. The fact, give universal health care, give a universal basic income. They could do all of those things easily if they just cut those other budgets that do nothing but like kill people. It's not. They're not. They're not. They're just wasted money. Like most of the military was like these budgets going to, and they had to maintain their budgets, so they would just destroy property. Like they would destroy equipment to make sure their budgets stay at the level they're at. Tons of news articles on it. How just wasteful the military is. To just like send citizens over to get PTSD invading some country for no reasons other than resources. And then, send them back with like crazy mental health problems where they get very little to no health care for. Far more progressive than most Democrats in general. But that's just me. That's just me. That's the kind of world I want to live in. And yeah, I think billionaires and corporations and churches should be taxed like fucking crazy. Taxed. At least something. You telling me Trump paid $700 in taxes? That, you can go fuck yourself. You can fuck yourself if you think conservatives give a fuck about spending less money. They just want less taxes. They just want to get away with not contributing to anybody. Anyway, let's move on. Congratulations, Gavin Newsom. One tweet I really enjoyed. It was Ron Funches, stand-up comedian, host of a lot of TV shows. I think he won a quote-unquote wrestling match recently. But he tweeted after the Newsom win. He's like, I hope this is the last time I will ever support somebody named Gavin, which is hilarious on different levels, just because that's a very preppy white name. And also, there's better. He's like, he's still like doing things that he shouldn't be doing. I think he handled things far better than most, definitely better than the president was at the time, and definitely better than a lot of states are or were. So, you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, anybody that voted conservative could just unsubscribe now, please. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. Moving on. Yes, moving on. To some movie trivia, some movie facts. Let's shake off the news a bit. Death. Okay. Rest in peace. Recall election. Dodge that bullet too. Let's shake it off. Let's go with some movie trivia. This one from Ocean's 11, a fun movie franchise. I've enjoyed. They're fun movies, heist movies. But this is something that I wasn't aware of. There's no credit for Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle is uncredited in Ocean's 11, despite having a major role. This is due to a dispute over his billing. Cheadle wanted above the title billing alongside other cast members. When he was refused, he refused to be credited at all, which is a bummer, man. I mean, I would like to know what names, because it's 11, so why wouldn't you have all 11 names on the top? And he's a big name, I would say. The accent that he's doing in Ocean's 11 is quite weird. But yeah, that's ridiculous. I wonder if he has to be getting residuals or something from that. Wasn't he in the other ones? He was in the other ones. So that's like that's like a story that would explain why an actor was no longer in a franchise. Right? Like if Don Cheadle disappeared from the rest of the Oceans franchise, which were only 2 movies, if he just disappeared, this would have explained it. It's like, oh, but he was in the other ones. I mean, I'm sure he still got paid, but not being credited. I mean, he's in the other ones. I'm assuming he's in the other ones. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. But yeah, just kind of crazy trivia. So I would imagine you could use that trivia betting somebody. Just bet them that Don Cheadle wasn't in Ocean's 11. And then eventually they would find it because it's not like IMDb is the only authority. And they would probably list him as uncredited. I guess you could use the actual credits from the movie. That's how you prove it. It's like, listen, we're not going to do this internet stuff. At least you could have done that. Listen, if this was a trivia thing, if you were back in the 90s before the internet was around and this movie had already been out and you were bullshitting with your friends and you knew this bit of trivia, you would be able to convince them somehow Don Cheadle's not in this movie. It's like, yeah, he is. I'll prove it. Let's go to the credits. Let's go put in your DVD or VHS at the time, whatever, in this weird twisted world where we're living in the 90s and then Ocean's 11 came out back then. And you put the thing in the thing and you fast forward to the credits and you're like, look at the cast. Nope, no Don Cheadle, no Don Cheadle, no. It's like, it's not there. Not in the movie. But that's him. It's like, no, that's somebody else. I don't know. I don't know how you'd pull it off, but you could use this information at one point in reality as a way to kind of finagle an easy win, an easy bet. But yeah, interesting stuff there. Moving on now, let's dip back. Okay, we had our little moment of zen. Let's go back into the horrific realities that we're living in. One of which was Simone Biles and other gymnasts testify on the FBI's mishandling of the Larry Nassar case. Now, I don't know the details of it, but based on the little bit of reading and research that I did, apparently there was a gym coach. Maybe he was a doctor, physical therapist. He was in some way working with the gymnasts and sexually abused many of them. And they told the FBI. The FBI said that they were going to investigate, but probably didn't or did very little investigation. And now they are taking it to Congress because the FBI, which is a federally funded investigation piece of stuff, didn't do their job. And it's great to see that they are in a position to be speaking up against sexual abuse, like child sexual abuse. Yeah, it's not good that the FBI mishandled it, but, there's surprise, the FBI, the police, the military, hey, just people in general, most people in general, go most places, whether they're employees, managers, owners, most people kind of just suck. Most people do the bare minimum of whatever they need to do to get through the day and to clock out and go home and get their paycheck. Whatever that bare minimum is, okay. Now, working at a grocery store and doing the bare minimum there, whether you're an employee or a manager, is quite a bit different than being an FBI agent who is in charge of investigating abuse of minors, sexual abuse of minors. I don't even know if they were minors at the time. I don't know that's the thing. The fact that I can get enough, there's a situation here, a wrong was done, the people in charge of investigating that wrong didn't do their job, which just compounds the wrong, kind of keeps that wrong as a thing that keeps happening and can keep happening, and people that committed that wrong are not being, there's a lot of people that are not being held accountable for their actions. Like, unless you're a poor person, most people are not held accountable for their actions. It seems to be. It seems to be in this country, if you have enough money, consequences don't exist. Consequences don't exist. And for the few that it does exist, like the people that are in jail for the January 6th thing, like, you're going to have other insane people supporting you, protesting for you to get released. People complaining in American prisons that they're being treated the same as people in Guantanamo is insane. Is just as insane as the people that say having to wear a mask is the same as what happened to Jews in the Holocaust. Like, these people are coming up with the most insane comparisons to cry about the reality. But this reality of these gymnasts speaking up to find justice and to get the people who are not only who perpetrated these crimes, to have them pay for them, those crimes, but also the people who were in charge of investigating those crimes. Those people need to be held accountable too. Seriously, like, if you're working at the FBI and you are part of this investigation and you are now found to have not done your job, you should be fired from your job. Most people, if you work at MacDonald's and you clock in and then you go play basketball all day and then go back home and clock out, the only job position where you could be considered to be a good employee in that field is being a police officer. Police officers, if they're skateboarding or playing basketball, they're considered to be, quote unquote, good cops. If you did that shit at McDonald's, you'd be fired. If you did that shit, if you didn't do your job, a very important job, and you were working at a fast food place and you didn't do it, and then people find out and you get in trouble for that, you get fired. But, like, for whatever reason, if you work in the government, you can get away with doing things that aren't your job, to a point where even if you do, like, cops kill people, bad, right? Not doing your job on the biggest scale. But then they're so, like, bad that seeing those murderer terrorist people in that uniform playing basketball or skateboarding, that's considered, at least you're not killing people. I mean, both instances, you were literally not doing your job, but at least you're not killing people in those situations. So that's good. That's good. At least you're not killing people. Like, no, you should all be just eliminated. Not only the people the employees that perpetrated these things and let these things happen, right? The actual investigators of this thing, but all of the management on top of those people that knew what they were doing or instructed them. Like, all of the management involved with this stuff should be gone. Same thing with police departments where they murder or they're anti-mask, anti-vaccine, and they're just helping to spread this pandemic and keep the pandemic going. Like, all of the management that are involved should be let go. Just purge them. Get rid of them. Get people that want to do the job right. Because it's not only do the employees not get reprimanded and punished and terminated, like, the managers who orchestrated this thing, the managers who are in charge, who should be held accountable for what their subordinates do underneath them, they should be held to that same level. Like, every police chief who has an officer commit murder under their, like, watch, they should also be charged with murder. They should be charged alongside the police officers that are being charged. And you want to see how fast murders will stop when police chiefs and, like, the DA and, like, just people that are involved in that structure, that system, when they start getting charged with murder alongside the police officers who should be charged with murder as well. then you'll see some change, because at this point they are so insulated from any responsibility. It's absolutely ridiculous. So anyway, hopefully some justice comes from this. And so, at least there was a moment of levity in this episode of Swipe Up. A little bit of levity, kind of. I mean, it feels bad for Don Cheadle not to be given some respect in the credits of a fun movie. But let's do some shout-outs and get out of here, shall we? Shout out to The Comedy Store. Shout out to Mark Dean Vecca. Shout out Movie Facts. Shout out BuzzFeed News. And most importantly, shout out to you. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Peace out!